Good evening, everybody. How are you all doing? Is it even good evening where you are? Or maybe it's good morning or good afternoon. A very warm welcome to you wherever you are in the world. My name is Joseph Massie, and what a pleasure it is to be here with you at this time to be diving on in to our Big Impact, Bigger Profits live class. Now, if you've done any of my webinars before, you know you're hopefully in to a very happy good time. First of all, a big hello to you. Thank you for joining us. Let us know where you are joining us from here today. There should be a little chat box that should pop up maybe towards the bottom of your screen, maybe towards the side of your screen. It's entirely up to you. Let me know where you are joining me from this evening. We currently are 150 participants strong. 151, God, 152. It's shooting up. We are truly international here. Hello, where are we joining everybody from here today? Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Okay. It's a lot. It's good. It's a lot. It's good. Puerto Rico, Seattle, Oxfordshire. Hello, Sam from Warwick. MA, Massachusetts, maybe I'm guessing. Jacksonville, Florida. London, Finland, Galway. Beautiful place. I've been there just once before. Loch Lomond. I've been there just once before as well. New Zealand. Never been there, Rochelle. Nice to see you. Norway, Lincoln, Wales, Leigh-on-Sea, California, Pennsylvania, Miami, Florida. Oh my gosh, and a million more messages. Buenos Aires, Argentina, how incredible. Portland, Oregon, Wesley, Manchester, not that far from me. Joseph Massey here this evening. If you haven't said hello yet, a very warm welcome to you. Hey, Subra, how are you? Laura, Vancouver, love Berkshire. Oh my gosh, this is amazing, amazing, amazing. First of all, a huge thank you to you for taking the time to join me this evening for this live class. Now, whether or not you are a member of Flower Class, if you are, you will very much recognize my voice and how we do things here. But if you maybe haven't attended one of my webinars yet, well, hopefully you're in for a very, very good time. Now, today we're going to be beginning with essentially a two-part session focusing on bigger impacts and focusing on bigger profits too. So it's going to be a really, really good session. We're going to aim to wrap everything up within the hour. Some of our webinars go on a lot longer than an hour. I'm sure my Flower Class members know this, but tonight it should be around about an hour. A very warm welcome to you joining us from wherever you're joining us from across the world. We have everybody here, it seems, from every continent, apart from maybe Antarctica, but maybe we can prove that wrong as we continue really throughout the course of this evening. So a very, very warm welcome to you if you're joining us for the first time for any of our live classes. We are 170 people here this evening, which is just is mind-blowing to me. Frankly, it's incredible. But at the same time, I have to start with a huge thank you to you for joining me this evening. Now let's roll through how this evening is going to be. We're doing a live class on how to create big impact and big profits, essentially. This live class will be recorded, so if you can't join us for a whole session, don't worry, it's all good. There will be a replay that will go out within 24 hours, and you will all get an email link to that replay. That'll go out tomorrow, so hopefully you'll be here for the whole session, but if you can't, please do not worry. You will have a link that will be sent out to you tomorrow for you to enjoy or catch up, or of course, to even just to listen back to, because sometimes if you're like me, maybe you need to listen to things a couple of times to get everything kind of, embedded in and create a strategy from it. Now, tonight's session, we are very much going to begin diving on in to two parts, big impact and bigger profits. We will break in between and do a Q&A session. So we'll start with our first half, which is essentially big impacts, and then we're going to break for a Q&A. Please pop all of your Q&A questions right here. So where you've all introduced yourselves, that is where you can pop all of your questions. So please write and type anything that comes to mind that you want more information of, all to do with installations. I think chances are, if you've got the question, probably somebody else here tonight has that question too. And that's why I'm here live, to answer your questions, to be friendly, of course, and to really help us all embrace installations to create essentially big impact and big profits too. Now, tonight, we've got a very special offer. I have a number of masterclasses. They are only open once a year. And tonight, we're opening the installations masterclass. It will only be open for around a week, just less than a week, I think. We only open it once a year. It is the biggest masterclass. It is our most popular masterclass out of everything that we do. And there are so many exciting bonuses that we have just for everybody who joins in this 1 week. So we've got 8 additional bonuses, in addition, of course, to the masterclass being 50% off. So not only is the masterclass 50% off, we are doing 8 additional bonuses that go in with it, which is like kind of fantastic and kind of crazy at the same time. Let's go through these bonuses very quickly. First up, we are, of course, doing a free live training on how to sell installations. So if you purchase the installations masterclass, you will get access to that live Q&A, which will be with me. I think we're going to do it in about 2 weeks' time after the masterclass closes. So that is a good little live class with me, live, for us to go through all my key selling points of how to really sell, how to demonstrate, how to build trust, how to build those installations, and how to sell them to your clients over and over again. It also includes 1 free month of the Flower Class membership, which has over 250 live floral design lessons in there, access to a live Flower Class coaching call, access to the Flower Class community for 1 month for a live coaching call with me. Again, also we're throwing in a copy of our Sustainable Technique ebooks, a copy of our Principles and Elements ebooks, access to the Best Flowers for Installations cheat sheet, and a very special bonus live class, which is a guide to site visits. So pretty exciting, 8 additional bonuses, which will be coming your way should you purchase the Installations Masterclass this particular week. So here we have the link. If you're interested, check it out. I mean, I gather you're interested. If you're here to learn about installations, there's a bloody good chance that you are genuinely interested in installations itself. So maybe you can take advantage of our offers this week and really get your feet well and truly under the table and ready to rock and roll with installations. Right, so what we're going to do, we're going to start off right now with our first half of our seminar this evening, which we're going to be focusing very much on how to create big impact using installations. Now, this session will last around about 20 minutes, a little less than 20 minutes. We're going to be beginning right now with that. And then after 20 minutes, we'll stop and we'll do a Q&A session. And then from there, from that Q&A session, we will then go directly through into our second half, which is all about essentially how to cost and how to sell and how to make installations incredibly profitable. And that section will be around about 15 minutes. And at the end, we'll wrap up with our Q&A as well. So 3 things. Please take all the notes you want to, ask any questions that you want to, type your questions right here in the chat box, and I will work through them together when we do our Q&A sessions, when we break after the first session, and of course after our second session here this evening as well. Replays will be available, but why not use me while I'm here? I'm relatively friendly, very friendly, some would say, and I'm here to answer all your questions. So without further ado, let's dive into the first half of Big Impact, Bigger Profits. We're beginning with big impacts right now, here live within this coaching call. If we're ready, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin. Hello there, and a very warm welcome to you. Joining me today, your host and tutor, Joseph Massie, for today's lesson, Installations, Big Impact and Bigger Profits, Part 1. Now, this is indeed a 2-part session that we're going to be diving into today. In the first part, Big Impact, we're going to be taking a really good look at exactly what good installations entail, how we can use installations to essentially create a big impact in our business, to get people to see our work, to recognize our brand, to follow our social media, and of course, to send bookings our way. In part two, we'll be moving on to taking a look at profitability as to how exactly we can throw ourselves into the world of installations and make a great, healthy profit for our business too. Over these two sessions, Big Impact and Bigger Profits Parts 1 and Parts 2, you should have a far better understanding of the purpose behind installations, why you should make them a part of your business, and exactly how to go about incorporating them into your business in a stylish, successful, and profitable way. If you're ready, let's begin diving on into Part 1, Big Impact, Bigger Profits. Let's begin right at the very beginning with the possibilities that installations can offer your business, not of course from a creative or artistic standpoint, but also from a commercial point of view as well. Now, installations essentially are an extension of your brand, however, maybe on a far larger scale than you've been working on previously. If you imagine that everything that you create in your flower store or in your flower studio is an extension of your brand, it's a little piece of your brand, of your style, of your signature that you're sending out into the world. Well, installations are pretty much along that kind of line. However, they're along that kind of line in a far, far bigger way. They're an extension of your brand on a far larger scale. Installations, by their very nature, they often have a boldness, an unexpected element of fantasy, and an element of luxury included in them. I mean, the very definition of a fabulous installation is that it's remarkable. It's something that stops you in your tracks and takes your breath away and makes you think, my gosh, this is incredible. And as floral designers, we can use this very much to our advantage because installations that are, by their very nature remarkable, by their very nature attention grabbing, by their very nature, commanding a very decent fee to be able to create, well, we can use that because an installation is, of course, not just a sale. I mean, it is, of course, a sale, it's a service that we're providing to a client, but at the same time, it also acts as an advert for our business, for our style, for our signature, for the work that we produce. And I think that's a rather wonderful thing because there's an additional bonus there which you don't often get. For example, if you're creating a bouquet or if you're creating a buttonhole for somebody, you're getting to create something that is, of course, a paid product that you're selling to a client, but that also has a fabulous kickback to you in the sense that it's your work on display in a big, bold way that will be seen in a location with lots of people knowing that that is your work and that is what you are all about. Now, as a general rule, installations, the bigger they are, the better they are, simply because the bigger they are, I have often found that the general public seem to appreciate them more, even though from a technical point of view, there isn't too much of a difference necessarily between creating a smaller installation or creating a larger installation. When it comes to installations, bigger is better, simply because the general public seem to be far more impressed with larger things than they are when it comes to smaller things, and therefore it gives you an opportunity to make a bigger impression, a bigger impact very, very easily. Installations generally open doors that other floral products won't, and by that I mean you can be the most skilled, brilliant florist, creating the most gorgeous wrist corsages, or the most incredible hand-tied bouquets, or the most beautiful vase arrangements, but there's something about the magic of installations, there's something about the fantasy, the luxury, the boldness of them that really does stop people in their tracks, that really puts floral work on the map. In addition to this, installations also encourage collaboration and, to a lesser extent, conversation. If you do a fabulous installation for a business, there's every chance that other businesses may see that and then reach out to you to collaborate on an installation for their business, or at least engage in conversation, or maybe take pictures and share it on social media. So installations really, in my opinion, are a win-win for any good floral designer worth their salt, simply because they really do help take your business to the next level. It's an extension of what you're already doing on a far bigger scale that puts you right at the forefront of those who are viewing it. And honestly, you have to take it from me, they can turn your business around and really take it to a whole new level. Now that we understand a little about the power that installations can have and how they can really magnify our businesses and our practices, where shall we begin? Let's start right there. Now, when I consider where to begin with installations, how to begin harnessing the power of installations, well, it's kind of obvious. It has to be that we begin within your brand. We begin sat within the power that you have built within your brand, within your business. By that, I mean that everything that we build, we want it to be in alignment with our brand. We want to ensure that our installations are an extension of our brand. Now, what do I mean by that? I mean that we should have, in the brands that we're building, in the businesses that we should have house codes in a way. So certain things that we do, certain flowers that we use, or certain ways that we use flowers, or certain techniques, or certain looks that are really distinctive to what we do. In the same way that, for example, we could consider fashion houses. You could say, okay, for example, Gucci, for example, is often portrayed using interlocking letter G's, or maybe it's using a bamboo handle, or maybe it's using a horseshoe, for example. There are certain codes that Gucci may use that makes you think, oh, that's Gucci, that green and red stripe, that bamboo handle, those interlocking G's. That's what makes that Gucci. It's those kind of visual codes that make us understand that that particular product, whether it's a pair of shoes or a handbag or whatever, is essentially belonging to that particular brand. In the same way you may consider Alexander McQueen, you might think, well, of course, the skull motif, that's very Alexander McQueen, as is the McQ, or the skull pattern that is repeated across fabrics, for example. All of those things are very much kind of house codes or visual identifiers as to exactly where the product originates from, which brand does the product belong to. And I believe that in floral design, the best floral designers have something very, very similar. They have an idea that kind of starts out all about, rooted firmly in the brand itself. So when you're starting out at installations, very much what I did was I began with self-initiated installations. Now these were often smaller installations that were either, designed to sit in my own studio, in a shop window, maybe in my store, something like that. They were smaller installs during which the process of I could really begin to kind of get my feet under the table and kind of test out my mechanics and kind of build some installations that were very much in my house codes, or in the codes of my brand is what I mean. And therefore that everything that you're creating belongs to your brand and is easily identified as coming from your brand. Now, why is this important? Because everything that we do in business, we want to be able to make it very, very clear that it's ours, that it's what we're doing, that it's unique to us, and that can only help build our brand and help people understand what our brand is all about. Now, when we're working with installations, of course, I realize there are practical constraints. There's budgetary constraints, there's time constraints, there's space constraints. I fully understand that. But that's why I began small with self-initiated installations that I paid for myself, that I worked on in my own time. They weren't collaborative with any brand or any other person, for example, and it was a great way of me being able to get my work out there, shooting it, filming it, photographing it, very much as my installations. And then once I was able to show the world exactly what I was able to do, and what that could look like, then it was very easy for me to, attract clients that were looking to have installations, because I had already proven that I could make them on a smaller scale, and therefore, the proof was there for them to be able to book me, for them to have confidence in booking me for their own brand. Installations, as Anything creative you do in your business should be an extension of your brand, and installations need to be an expansion of your artistic vocabulary, simply on a larger scale that will stop people in their tracks, make them follow your social media accounts, and love the work that you do. Now, you may be sat there thinking, well, Joseph, it's all very well to say I should start creating self-initiated installations, but what should I create? Why should I create it? I mean, you've listed all the ways in which installations can bring our brand to a point of exposure, so more people can see what we do, could recognize what we do, can be awed by what we do, and of course then can book us for what we do. But where should we begin exactly, and why are we doing this? Well, if we want to grow our businesses in a way that engages with the public, that maybe even brings our businesses to a newer, more luxurious market, or even a more creative market, then we have to consider how we're going to go about this. And first up, I believe we should consider our intention. Why exactly are you making these installations? So I want you to think about this step before you go charging in to create your own self-initiated installations. What do we want to achieve? Do we want to achieve more luxurious wedding installations, more luxurious wedding bookings in general? Do we want to cultivate our corporate clients and really kind of grow that section of our business by decorating, for example, entrances to stores or events or parties, things like that? Who exactly are we looking to impress here? What segment of our market are we really looking to appeal to? And I want you to spend some time considering your ideal customer and your market and pick a clear segment of that you want your installations to appeal to, because we should really only be showing what we want to sell. There's no point in any stage of our business to be spending time creating work that we don't like to sell that clients that we've got no interest selling to. We really want everything to be in alignment. So you have to be really clear about what you're selling. So for example, I'm a flower shop or a flower studio that does some weddings, but I would like to do more weddings, and I would like to do maybe more creative weddings, or I would like to do more weddings that are maybe of a higher budget. Well, then therefore, the installations that I want to create should align with those particular goals. And the first step for that is saying, okay, well, if we want to attract more creative or more luxurious weddings, then what we need to do is we need to begin right at the start by creating installations that would appeal to that particular client who maybe wants to book a florist and spend a bit more money, or book a more creative florist. So therefore, the installations that I should be creating are the type of installations that that client would look to buy. For example, large luxurious archways or hanging clouds styled above a top table. I would be looking to create installations that tie into that specific customer, that then therefore that specific customer would look to buy. Now, this may seem very simple, and I don't mean to patronize in any way, shape, or form, but it really is that logical. If I want to create immersive fashion-led installations that are very trend-driven to sell to clients that are maybe in the fashion industries or in contemporary industries that are trend-driven, then maybe I want to create installations that aren't, for example, archways, or aren't, for example, window frames, or aren't, for example, aisles for people to walk up. Maybe I want to create asymmetrical, more unexpected installations in unexpected spaces, creating more unexpected or trend-led materials. It really is that old phrase that I use over and over again, and I know I do, and I apologize for it, but it's horses for courses. You have to be creating the right thing for the right ideal client to create the right outcome, and it all kind of links up. So if you want to grow your wedding business to be more luxurious and more creative, then all you need to do is to create designs, to create installations that will be loved and adored by your ideal customer, by those couples who are planning to get married, and therefore will spend on that particular type of installation. As mentioned, it's horses for courses. You need to identify who you're looking to serve, what you're looking to serve them with, and what goal that will lead to. When that all aligns, you're good to go. So far, we have identified why exactly we are creating installations, well, what the purpose is behind them. We've identified exactly who we are creating them for and what our desired outcome will be. Now, it really just comes down to actually starting to beginning to create our installations and to get the ball rolling. However, like any good strategy, seldom does it depend on one instance or one occurrence or one event. When we branch out installations, I am a big believer that we need to do it on a regular basis. You can't just do one, put it on your homepage or put it on your portfolio and hope for the best. You have to create several of them. You have to create almost like a separate portfolio, a new layer to your portfolio that really shows and demonstrates your expertise in this area. As we do when we're doing any strategy, whether it be a social media campaign or we're launching a product or we're starting a business, it's not enough to just do it once and hope for the best, because then you're only going to attract the eyeballs of the people who might see it on that one occasion. It needs to become part of your repertoire. It needs to be something that we're doing time and time and again to get the message across on our website, on our social media, in our stores to our audience that this is part of what we do, that we're the best at doing this, and that's why people should book us for it. Now, when we go about the business of creating these fabulous installations, which of course they will be, I want you to bear a few additional points in mind. Now, when you're creating your installations, don't just aim to capture the finished installation. Try and get as much content as you can of behind the scenes, of the actual making of the installation. I mean, of course, the finished images and finished video, all the rest of it is incredibly important because that's what will take people's breath away. But by sharing the behind the scenes, that lets people in on the story, on the detail as to what you're actually doing, and it kind of brings people further along on the journey, I believe. It lets people see a little bit more about you, about the person behind the brand that you want them to support. Also, as well, when you're creating a self-initiated installation, it really only benefits you to rework the piece. So bear with me for a second because it might sound a little crazy, but if you are going to be spending the time and of course the expense on materials and frameworks and flowers and all the rest of it, and if you have the time, it's a self-initiated installation, so hopefully you've carved out enough time to do it properly, well then why not remake it in several ways? Maybe different shapes or different forms using the same materials, or reusing the same structure, using different materials or a different way, or even photographing it or filming it in an entirely different location. The more content, the more mileage that you can get from one design, the better, because then you've got more and more that you can share with your audience. It's a great little trick that I do a lot on social media. If I'm planning a design that maybe incorporates a framework or a structure, often I will share that first without then sharing anything else to do with the final design. And then a couple of days or a couple of weeks later, I'll then go in and share the final piece too. And those who are paying attention will notice the difference and the distinction between the first iteration and the final iteration. It's always really, really good to consider post installation what is the next step? How can you reuse, repurpose, or recycle the materials? Of course, this can be for your financial benefit. If you're creating a structure out of, I don't know, bamboo canes or chicken wire or water spikes, you can then reuse those materials time and time again. But also, we try and work as sustainably as possible at all times, so do try and bear that in mind. My final tip for you, however, is to arch back to something that we spoke about right at the start of this chapter, which is very much all about consistency. You and I know in life there is really no such thing as a magic pill to solve something or a magic potion. It really comes down to applying yourself, becoming excellent at it, and repeating that excellence time and time again. And I guarantee you, if you embrace installations in the same way within your business, you will see the opportunities unfold. Hello there. All right, and there we have it, the first session, the first half rather, of Big Impact, Bigger Profits. So I hope that did it for you this evening. Some confusion, I think, maybe a little bit, one or two people, about what we will be diving on into and what we will be covering this evening. This webinar obviously was very much advertised under its name, Bigger big impact and bigger profits. Very much what we're focusing on this evening, which I hope I made clear at the start in the introductions. It's very much going to be a strong focus on installations, on how to go about using them in your business, incorporating them within your business, to use them very much to create impact with your clients and, of course, to create bigger profits too. So, some wonderful questions that have come in. I'm going to go through them now, but this is very much the opportunity for you to get your questions in. So, in the chat box right here at the very bottom, please do pop any questions that you have right here and I'll answer them live now. So, first question, and I do apologize if I butcher anybody's name. I will do my very best to pronounce everyone's name correctly. Marisha, I think, said, first question, how do you practice big installations when you're starting out? I'm not the only one that doesn't have that kind of money lying around. I totally get that. So, what I started with is I'm a very firm believer in starting with self-initiated installations. You know, every business requires some investment, right? And it's these kind of small installations that you can begin creating in your own studio, in your own workroom, in your own store, you know, whatever kind of space you have available. And they don't have to be big. They can be small hanging installations or small doorway installations or wall installations. You know, they don't have to be the world's biggest archway or a hopper or a mandap or whatever it may be. But you do have to begin building up a portfolio of installations because without images of the work that you can create, nobody will be able to book you to actually kind of create that work. So you do need to begin. So if you scroll back through my Instagram, if you take a look back through my Instagram account, you will see small installations from a couple of years ago where I was really focusing on getting that work out there. And these were small hanging designs, maybe, for example, that would just, you know, maybe a meter by a meter, you know, not very big at all, not very big in any way, shape, or form. They can just be small things. They don't have to be very expensive. They don't have to be filled with expensive flour. I'm not saying go and buy, you know, 1,000 roses and make a hopper or a mandap or an archway. They can just be small things. And then as you start small, you can then really begin. Yeah, Helen's, that's great. They use all foliage. They can be things from your garden. They can be plants. You can reuse things time and time again. They can just be small things that a help build your skills and help you build your confidence growing them. But then also they can then serve as your portfolio and you can begin sharing them. And then the idea is that when you self-initiate with these initial ideas, you can then share them on your social media and share them on your website and share them with your clients. And then hopefully you get you get commissions and then you have bigger things to show and it grows from there. But I find, and I don't know whether anybody else finds this as well, that you really kind of do need to have pictures of things to be able to share with people. Yes, I can make that. Yes, this is how I can create this. This is what I can do for you. Because if you don't have that, it can be a little bit difficult to actually kind of sell them. You know, I always find, no matter how much floral knowledge my clients have, that if I have images of things, it makes everything so much easier. It really does. It just makes everything so much easier. And in my opinion, having images of your work, they just help kind of get it started. They help sow the seeds, you know, to get it kind of off the ground and get it going. So start small, take lots of picture, take lots of video, and then from there you can look to grow it. So great question from Loretta. Loretta asked, what happens if your client choose a color or theme that is not your brand? All right, so let's be real with this. When you're in business, when you're starting a business, you absolutely, you know, you need to watch the pennies. You need to make sure the dollars and the pounds are coming in. I totally get that. But over time, the idea is, Loretta, is that we'll build this business so that people will come to you for your style, for your interpretation of color, for your use of flowers, all of that goodness. At the beginning, when you start out, I advise my students to take the work that comes in. And I very much did the same. When I started my business, I very much took every single job, every wedding that came to my door, because you need to keep the lights on, right? You need to keep everyone paid. You need to pay all the bills, all the rest of it. But over time, the idea is that you will build your own style, your own brand, your own vision for how you want to do things. And from there, then people will come to you because they want to book you and not just because they need a florist in your area. I know for sure that the jobs that I got right at the beginning of my business, they probably needed a florist in the town that I was in, and that's absolutely fine. But over time, I would like to think now that the jobs I get are the jobs because people want me to do them. They want Joseph Massey to do them, and that's why I do them. That's why I get those jobs. So in the beginning, take the jobs. It's fine. Doesn't mean you have to share it everywhere. Doesn't mean anybody has to know about it. Loretta, you can do it in a balaclava if you want to. Nobody needs to know that it's you making the flowers. But over time, the more work that you do of your style, of your taste, of your vision, the more people will want to book you for that. And I know that to be true because I've done it in my own career. So I hope the same happens for you. All right, great question now from Gainer. Gainer said, change of career, finding it hard to gain experience. I don't have any floristry qualifications. Where can I get experience? Okay, so when you're starting out in floral design, it definitely can be be hard to kind of put the, to get it all going. I would say for sure, you really, really do want to get as much experience as you can, but the way you go about it is really what opens doors or not. I think whenever you approach anybody for any work experience or to offer yourself as a freelancer, which I assume is maybe kind of the route we're going down here, Gainer, then you need a little portfolio of your work. You need a nice portfolio, beautifully photographed, that shows everything that you can do. People need to see the proof of what you can do before they're going to kind of purchase it from you, or purchase your services essentially. So you do need to present yourself in that way with good social media, nice portfolio of work that shows exactly what you're all about. And then I find that you can open doors a little bit more. Also, as well, there's no harm reaching out, introducing yourself to florists in the area, explaining you're looking for experience, all of that kind of stuff as well. But the more education you do have in floristry, the more likely you are to be able to kind of open those doors. Any masterclasses you do, any workshops that you do, anything like that, the more kind of you can bring to the table, the more appealing you'll be to employers. So I hope that helps as well. So another question that I have right here, I've got two more to answer, and then we're going to go on to part two, which is how to create bigger profits in our session this evening. So and another question that came through from Marisha, she said, how can you create brand alignment when you have an event company that entails different themes? Can it be as simple as using one or two varieties of flowers consistently? It totally can be. If you think of somebody like let me think. It's somebody like Jeff Leatham. Jeff Leatham, the he's based in California. He's originally from Utah in North America. He's quite famous for having one type of like floral design, which is like en masse, I would say, like head-to-head flowers, etc., etc. So it can be something as visual as that, but in floristry, I like to think it's a little bit more of that. I talk about brands like fashion brands because they have obviously very visual product, right? You know what I mean? Like it's similar to us. It's very visual to look at. So if you think of something like Gucci, and I just use Gucci because it's a well-known brand. It's been very prominent over the past decade. You can imagine they often have like a logo with lots of G's, like interlocking G's or back-to-back G's, the Gucci G's, you would say. They often that's like one hallmark or it's one icon of that brand, but they don't put it on absolutely everything. You don't need to see that on absolutely everything that they do. Instead, they might use bamboo handles, or they might use a green and red stripe, or they might use interlocking G's, maybe, for example. But they have different kind of ways of doing things, different visual identifiers. And I think it's part of building your own visual identity that really helps that come through, which you just get through experience and through doing more and more. You learn a certain way of how you like things done. That's what I would say. All right, couple more questions here. Okay. Nowadays, we all know the cost of living just keeps rising. How will you handle a client who wants a flamboyant arrangement slash installation, but doesn't want to pay for the service? What an excellent question. All right, this is a great question. I would begin very much by being really honest with the client. And I don't think it's offensive. I don't think it's rude. I don't think it's difficult at all to say to someone, oh yeah, we can do that. I can make this for you. That's absolutely no problem. But we start from X amount and we go through to X amount. I think it's just good common sense. And then from there, you can find something hopefully that kind of fits their budget. Equally as well, it's always good to have a starting point. So whenever anybody's coming in to meet you for a consultation or whatever it may be, you have that information to hand as to what kind of budget that they want to begin with. We do a big talk on this in Flower Class. It's super essential. It makes sure you're not wasting time, with clients that maybe do not have the budget, for to afford your services. Yulia, hello, how are you doing? Says that's so obvious when you say it, Joseph, in a good way. Sometimes when you're running around trying to make a new business work, you forget to focus on your basics and the floral education practice. Amen to that. Do I have any tips on marketing to higher budget clients? I do. I'm going to put a pin in that question. AS, because we're going to be diving on into marketing and pricing in a few minutes' time. So we'll cycle back around to that at the end if you still have a few questions on that. What was the name again, please? Was that Jeff Latham? I think it was. Was that the one I was talking about? Okay, there we go. Here we go. And let's quite a question now from Maria. Maria has said, thanks for the great webinar. Do you have any suggestions for installation photography backdrops and setups for building your portfolio? Also, when will Flower Class open to new members? I'd love to join and sign up for the waitlist. All right, questions first. So yes, I think something neutral for the backdrop is always good, but neutral can mean anything. It can mean, white, cream, black, gray. It can mean anything. Something neutral and something that works with your brand is what I would say. And ideally, you want the same kind of consistent backdrop that you're using in a lot of your photography. I use pretty much the same backdrop in nearly absolutely everything that I do, simply because it works for our brand, it works for my look and feel for things. So people hopefully kind of expect that I will have like a certain backdrop to the work that we put out there. I would say best tips, natural daylight, if you can, something quite neutral and quite plain. You don't really want anything heavily patterned or anything, too crazy out there at all. Something quite simple, plain, natural daylight is always a good way to go. As for Flower Class will open, I believe, on the 1st of May. So not too long to wait, a couple of weeks' time. On the 1st of May, we will be opening it with some very special offers. But you can get in this evening, but you do have to go through the installations masterclass, I would say. A couple of questions will come in privately. I will answer those on our next session. I can see a question from Layla. It says, how do you price in each installation? We'll be going through that very, very briefly in about 2 minutes time. We'll be diving into that, so we can dive into that then. Thank you so very much for being here this evening. I hope it's thrilling and good business advice. My apologies if you're expecting a live demonstration. That was never broadcast in any way, shape, or form. Sorry for any confusion. I thought we were doing a live installations class tonight on building installations. That was never what we were doing, but I hope you are enjoying it so far. All right, we're going to move on now to part 2, which is all about profitability. It's all about making profit with our installations. At the end of that session, we will then be very much diving on into another Q&A. So drop all of your questions on marketing, on profitability, on pricing, dealing with clients, all of that goodness. Get that all in the chat, all of those questions there before we embark on to part 2, which is all about creating bigger profits. This session will last around about 12 minutes now, and then we'll do our live Q&A at the end. Ladies, gentlemen, everyone here present this evening, let's move on without further ado on to part 2. And a very warm welcome to part 2 of our session, Big Impact, Bigger Profits. My name is Joseph Massie, and I'll be your host and tutor for this session as we dive on in to the second half of our program today, which is essentially bigger profits. Now, of course, I'm not providing bigger profits for you right now, but in today's session, I can promise you we will do a deep dive into the mechanics, the profitability around installations, and how, of course, we can use the nature of installation work to not only create a larger impact for our business, but also to create bigger profits too. If you're ready, let's dive on in. First up, let's dive into how to cost an individual installation. Now, when I'm working on an installation, I work to the same margins that I look to work for any type of floral work, whether it's a bouquet, a corsage, a large display, a large urn, for example. I work to the exact same margins of 30 to 40%. But the kind of magic that comes in with installations is, of course, because they generally are a lot larger in size, often the sale is a lot larger in size, and therefore so is the profit. Now that may seem immediately obvious to many, but I mean, for a lot of floral designers, sometimes I don't think they quite understand or can't quite grasp that if this becomes the bread and butter of your business, or at the very least a very lucrative sideline, then what you can do is to take your day-to-day work from being 10 or 20 gift bouquets to maybe one or two very large installations a week or a month, depending, of course, on the local economy of kind of where you're based, where your business is based. The point is, though, that as a general rule, installations are larger, therefore the sale price is more, and therefore the profit is more, even if they are costed in exactly the same way. Now, I want to share with you my personal costing formula, which is something that I've used time and time again across and throughout my business, regardless of what product we are referring to. What I begin with, first of all, is the cost of goods. So I'll have a good idea of exactly what my initial costs will be, and that's the cost of sundry materials, chicken wire, bamboo canes, test tubes, water spikes, all of that kind of goodness, and of course then my fresh floral material too. Now, if you're ever unsure about how much material you will use, or even unsure about how much labor you're going to need and how long it could take to actually create this installation, well, you can always do a small sample, and I talk about that a lot throughout our installations masterclass, and indeed through the flower class membership as well, simply because it's the most useful tool. What I always look to do is look to create 1 foot of the desired installation. So if I know I'm going to be doing, I don't know, at the front of a shop, for example, or maybe it's an installation to hover above a bar at a party, I'll of course estimate how many feet or how many meters that the installation is going to consist of, and then from there I will then create one single segment of it. Maybe it's a 1 foot length or a 50 centimeter length, using the exact materials. That is the best way, the number one way for you to estimate exactly what floral content you will need to fill the installation out. Always bear in mind, though, to work on volume. So consider the depth, consider the height and the width of the installation when you're doing the sample. Don't just do a two-dimensional segment, of course, unless your installation is indeed two-dimensional. So we take the cost of goods, whether that's fresh, sundry, anything specific we may need, any structures or frameworks being made, that kind of business. We then will apply a markup to it. Now, a markup is usually ×3 or ×4 or ×5, of course, depending upon your business and depending upon the location you're in, the local economy, all the rest of it. ×3 is what I hear to be most common, but I have heard lower and higher markups depending. From there, you want to add on 20% for labor, and then plus a fee for delivery, and delivery can also incorporate vehicle hire or any additional vehicles, scissor lifts or hire equipment you may need to install the installation. From there, you want to put on a separate charge for setup. That could be for anything that may be complicit in with the installation that you may not have accounted for necessarily in the labor. Could be a very tricky load in, or having to do it over night time or after hours, something of that nature. And then from there, you're putting tax on top. So it's a relatively simple formula on the surface, but you do need to know your numbers. You do need to know the cost of your goods, how long it's going to take for you to do, and that's where a great sample can come in to kind of help clarify exactly those numbers, that when you're coming to actually price these installations, they will indeed be profitable to a margin of around 30 to 40%. To recap, we begin with the cost of goods, we times that by a markup, we plus our labor, we plus delivery, we plus any additional setup costs, and then finally, of course, we add a sales tax, which could be GST or a state sales tax or a VAT, whatever is required dependent upon the laws of the territory where we're doing business. Let's move on now to some further profit-making tips. Now, first up, I often find that when I'm creating weddings or events with installations, they generally tend to have a larger budget allocated to them. And this is because I find that clients that want to go for an installation often have done a little bit of research and therefore know they need to assign a larger percentage of the overall budget to get the look and feel that they want. It is not uncommon, but it's very, very rare nowadays that I will have a client come to me who's got no concept whatsoever of what a room full of flowers look like. I remember, a good decade or so ago when Dior did those original rooms full of flowers. The floral designer Marc Carl, Belgian floral designer, did those, and immediately every client, was inquiring about them and wanting them with no understanding that that was, a multi-million pound floral installation. Nowadays, I feel that clients have a little bit more understanding of what they could anticipate for what those installations could cost. And I generally find that when clients have an installation in mind for their celebration, often the budget is a little bit higher. It's kind of hiked a little bit to accommodate those installations. Of course, you still need to sell the installation and there's room for negotiation and all the rest of it, but it's usually a good starting point that they've considered the budget before they dive on in. For our next step, I want to mention that additionally the cost for all the tools and the kit is often relatively negligible. The kit we're often using for installations is things like reusable archway frameworks, or it's chicken wire, or it's large ends, for example. Often it's incredibly reusable and recyclable and repurposable, and very low cost in relation to the actual sale value. The tools and the kit that you're using are often reusable and pretty long lasting. Very rarely do I see installations that have mechanics or tools applied to them which are, have a very short lifespan. Often we're able to make our tools and kit last a long time and to reuse them on several jobs. Now, when it comes to reusing things, I'm a really big fan of this. I think it's obviously one of the most important things that you can do as a floral designer is build a stock of props and tools and frameworks that you can use for any number of jobs. The thing that I always try and tell my students to avoid is to, avoid investing in one particular thing, one particular framework that is only able to be used in one situation at one time to do one thing. I just think it's not really the best way to go, I have to say. Simply because if you can invest in something, you want it to be usable for many situations, for many venues, for many circumstances. Frankly, you're just going to get a lot more bang for your buck. So do try and invest in frameworks that you can use repeatedly. Invest in frameworks that are adaptable. Ideally, you can, adapt the actual mechanics themselves. They're modular, or you can bolt things on and take things off. And invest in frameworks that are easy to use. I'm all about business being fun. I know that might not be a word you associate with me a lot, but it is. I like business to be easy and fun and pleasurable as much as it possibly can be. So there's no point kind of commissioning a structure or purchasing a structure that is an absolute nightmare to use. You want to invest in something that you can use time and time again, without any issue. Something that brings you joy to use, for example. Finally, you will often find that installations, they do tend to sell more easily in more luxury markets. It's just the nature of them. By their very nature, they're large and often luxurious and, often appeal to that particular higher end of the market, shall we say. And therefore, adding installations into your repertoire can actually begin to shift your entire market upwards, which is obviously a thing that a lot of florists are looking to do. They're looking to achieve as higher average sale, or, an increased sale, to the clients that they already have, and installations can be a great way of beginning that market upshift. For our final chapter, let's consider how to sell installations again and again and again. Now, the first thing we need to do if we are creating some self-initiated installations to get the ball rolling before we sell them to our fabulous clients, we want to add them to our portfolio. We want to add them to our website. We want to be sharing them frequently on our Instagram, on our social media, whatever social media platforms we use. We need to get the word out there that this is something that we can do, that we can do well, and that is a regular part of our offering, of our service, of our creativity. There is no point dipping a toe in the water and doing it once. I mean, you might get lucky, you might do one piece and it might, really resonate with your audience, but generally you're going to be doing different styles of things, different shapes of things, different flowers to show the richness of everything that you can do. Now, I know flower class members listening to this will think, oh my gosh, he's talking about the richness of what I can do again. But it's true, it's really important that as artists, as creatives, we can show the depth and the breadth of everything that we can pull together to show, to really, have more opportunity to sell that, but also to show our creativity, to show our artistry. You may also want to create an updated mini portfolio that you can send out to existing clients, existing planners, existing venues of new work that you're creating or new props that you have. You may want to do this semi-regularly, every 6 months, for example, to keep in touch with those clients, to let them know what's new and what you're up to and what direction you're taking your business in. You could also create a new updated mini portfolio to send out to new clients or to new planners to introduce a new service that you're offering, a new skill set that you've learned, and maybe even a new direction you're taking the business in. You want to maybe even consider demonstrating a small installation at your next promotional event. Maybe you're doing a wedding show or an open evening or a collaborative event, whatever it may be. Maybe there could be an opportunity there to do something quite fabulous and to show off your skills and to show off the new direction that you're taking the business in. We want you to be sharing your finished installation so everyone can gasp in awe at how talented and brilliant you are. And I also want you to be able to share the behind the scenes to show the journey of what it takes to actually make these fabulous installations, and also as well to show a little bit of yourself, a little bit of you and your personality and your style in the business. Ideally as well, you may want to consider sharing your installations in different formats. Fresh installations can be very expensive and obviously may not last as long as some clients may want, so there's no harm at all in recreating installations using dried product or using silk product too. When it comes to installations, it's really in your hands, and I know that there could be some concerns about what is suitable for your market or for your area. I fully get that, but I'm a firm believer that installations are a great addition to nearly any type of floristry business because they can just frankly open so many doors, and often so many more luxurious and abundant doors than what a florist may consider their initial market to be. And there we have it. Thank you so very much for all of these wonderful questions, which have all come in this evening. Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. We've got so many. All right, let's begin with a simple one to give me a bit of a head chance. Okay, let's start with Laurie's question. Laurie said, will you have a link to rewatch this recording? Yes, we will. The link will be mailed out to everybody tomorrow afternoon. We will put it up on YouTube privately, of course, so not everybody can see it. And we'll email everybody that link out tomorrow, so you can all watch this back for a limited time. So yes, all links will be provided within 24 hours, so that'll be coming your way, Laurie. Great question from Rebecca, who has talked about what about the payment of staff? Would you add this on installations or as your general business cost? So when we talk about the labor in there, that's essentially what we're talking about with like adding the business cost in. So let me just fish up that breakdown for you so I can note that there. 1 second and just put up. So when it says, let me just, I'll bring this up so you can see it right here. So this was Rebecca asked this question. Let me just share this library. So it says, for example, right here. Okay, so right here, when we talked about simple costing formula, cost of goods times by the markup plus 20% labor plus delivery. So that's essentially what we're talking about when we've got payment of staff. It's in that 20% labor. I mean, you can also increase that if you want it to be a little higher or a little lower or whatever it kind of needs to be. That makes total sense to me on to cost that however you want to. But that 20% labor is exactly what we're talking about there. That's what we have in there for the labor cost. If it needs to be more for you, that's fine. If it needs to be less, that's fine too. But 20% usually covers it fine for me. So that's what I would say. I hope that's a simple answer to that question. Maria has said, are there any flower recipes provided within your classes? So we have an idea of what ingredients are needed to replicate that arrangement or installation. Maria, I wouldn't be the world famous flower tutor I was if we didn't offer recipes. Of course, every single single recipe inside the installations masterclass. Every single design has a full recipe for you. And additionally, as well, every single recipe inside my membership flower class has a full recipe included as well. So you can either then copy the recipe or you can adapt to the recipe. No worries, Paula, thank you very much for joining us. So I hope that helps overall, in general. But yeah, no, everything comes with a recipe. Julia has said, one of my wonderful Flower Class members, what would the general markup be, please? I think times by three is the general markup, but it does depend. Some people go higher, some people go lower. I think three times is the generic markup for what I hear kind of across the world. So I hope that helps. But equally, sometimes you can go a bit lower if you want to kind of make sure, you're kind of hitting a spot to get a job or to help a client out or to build a relationship. And sometimes you might be able to go higher. So it's entirely up to you. Okay, Helen has said, nice simple question from Helen. How would you deal with a client that wants a sample? So it entirely depends on your terms and conditions, I would say, Helen. If you are pretty confident that you have the job, it's been, contracted, sealed, it's happening, well, you would have explained that in your terms and conditions. You either offer a sample or you don't, or maybe you offer a sample for a fee. I always used to offer a sample at cost price, but that would be, discussed during our initial meetings. It would be in my terms and conditions. So it was kind of there, like so, detailed fully. Equally, if you want to charge full for a sample, that's fine too. In my experience, we usually would just charge cost price for the flowers and cost of labor, cost of goods, all the rest of it. And I think that's absolutely fine to do. That would be my advice. And it's over to you as to kind of how you want to proceed or what works best for you. Katarina, beautiful name, says, hey, Joseph, do you have any tips on where to get and which type of frameworks are great to invest in? So this is a really great question that I get asked a lot of the time. And I think it depends a little bit, if I'm being really honest, on kind of where you're at in your business and kind of what you're looking to achieve, if that makes sense. So it's a bigger question, I think, than maybe you're anticipating the answer to be. If you're just kind of starting out, always go for any frameworks or anything of that kind of nature that you can use in different styles, different arrangements. You can adapt, you can make them modular, all of that kind of good stuff. If you want something a little bit more kind of like full on, like a little bit more adept, then I use Florisi frameworks, which I will type right here for you. Florisi frameworks is a French-based company. They ship worldwide. And they have really wonderful, adaptable, flexible frameworks. In the installations masterclass, actually, we do go through like different types of frameworks and what kind of level the frameworks are at and what you should invest in depending on kind of what level you're at, if that makes sense. So we have like really simple frameworks, which you kind of start off with. They're kind of pre-bought frameworks. You can buy them from online or from garden centers and things like that. Then you have kind of adapted frameworks, and then you have like fully bespoke frameworks. I think Florisi is the best ones. They are fully adaptable. I think they're great. I use them time and time again. I'm a customer of theirs. I don't get any like money from them. I don't get paid to advertise them. I wish I did, but I don't. I think they're wonderful. I think they're great, and that's what I recommend. Hannah had a very similar question. Hannah said, "What are your favorite kinds and most useful frameworks?" That's what I would say. They are expensive. Well, yes and no. They require some investment, the Florisi framework. So only invest in them if you're going to be able to use them time and time again. That is what I would say. Julia thinks they're fabulous as well. That's really good. Julia also said, mini portfolio slash brochure is a very good idea. I followed your advice and created one. I contacted local venues, attaching that in the email. Yes, got into a few venues recommended, vendors list, excellent, as well as sending to clients. I found it helps to understand your ethos. A mini portfolio is like such an underused little strategy, like an underused little technique. I think it is so useful to use it to introduce yourself. Not everyone has the time to like go on your website. Not everyone has the time to scroll through your social media. I think it's a really excellent place to be. Now, there was a question I just missed. This is from Artimo Jaban. I'm sorry if I'm butchering your name. It says, how would you price an installation for a friend? Tricky question. How would you price an installation for a friend to avoid future relationship conflicts? It depends on how good the friend is. That's what I would say, to be fair. Cost price is what I would do for my friends. I would do like cost price of flowers, cost price of materials, cost price of labor, and then sell it that way, is what I would say. But of course, it depends how good the friend is. Angela says, is it acceptable to use faux florals? Yeah, totally, of course. Silk florals, faux florals, dried florals. It's entirely your choice. Just obviously make sure you're using the right technique for the right job. I believe that is all of our questions answered so far. But if you do have any, I'm happy to answer a few more last minute ones. Thank you so very much for being here with me for this hour. Of course, we do have the installations masterclass. It's open for a mini amount of time. It's not here forever. There are 8 fantastic bonuses. Please do check it out if you like tonight's content and you're looking to get into installations to create impact and probably you can find a lot more about it at that link or just head to learnjosephmassey.com. There are 8 exclusive bonuses. They are only available for a very short time. In addition to this, if maybe in the installations masterclass is not for you, I've got a ton of free resources. You can check out my free blog. It's full of good stuff. I have a free podcast, which is excellent, a YouTube channel, and of course, lots of free little hints and tips and downloads on learnjosephmassey.com. So do check out all of our free resources as well as checking out the installations masterclass. I mean, thank you very much for spending your time here this evening. I hope you have had a good time and I hope it was useful to you for your future business, for your business now that you're in now, and you're thinking of kind of how to make moves in your own business to create larger impact and create, of course, larger profits too. A huge thank you to you for joining me this evening or this afternoon or even this morning, wherever you are in the world. And I look forward to chatting to you again very, very soon. Again, thank you so much for joining me. It's been a total pleasure. I really, really appreciate it. Have a wonderful evening, a wonderful afternoon. Take care, and I look forward to seeing you very soon. Please do check out the installations masterclass. You can find more at www.learnjosephmassey.com/website installations, or you can just click there on the homepage and it has all the installations information right there for you. 8 bonuses, all there for you right now to check out, and indeed, we have a lot of free resources for you as well to enjoy. Thank you so very much for joining me this evening. Take care, have a wonderful evening, and I look forward to seeing you again soon on another lesson in the near future. Have a good one. Take care. Thank you so much again. Bye bye.